they've decided, I'm going to say I have a health related issue and I can't be putting this mask on my face. Listen, if there was something in the air, you know what I'm saying, and they said, oh, there's some kind of poison in the air, you need to put this mask on or you'll die, you'd put the mask on and you'd put it on pretty quickly. You might put on 2 of them to make sure that you were protected. You know what I'm saying? Some of us would probably close our eyes and just be like, okay, let's wait till this passes. So I'm just saying, you know, people don't want to wear masks and making up reasons not to wear a mask. And this is just coming up after I thought we were pretty much done with the pandemic. I was wrong, because it's rearing its little ugly head again. And all these stories, you know, about the variant and cases increasing, different places, different states, cases were going down. Everybody had cases going down. Now all of a sudden, cases are going back up, but it seems to be people who were not vaccinated, who are the cases of COVID are starting to go up in different places. Some countries, like India, are racked with COVID. They are overrun with COVID, and we're going to talk about that when we come back from this break. Don't go away.
You're listening to a man who's almost intelligent, very close. Welcome back to Probably Offensive. One hell of a show. Yeah.
Welcome back to Probably Offensive. One hell of a show. Yeah. Before we went to that break, we were talking. I mentioned India, where India is a place where they have a lot of people. There's 1 billion people in India. The population actually of India is bigger than China. It's been reported. I don't know how true that is, but it's been reported that India has more people than China. And India is racked with COVID. And they don't have any vaccine. So what I say is, for all the vaccine that they have here in the U.S., if people don't want to take it, they don't have to take it. A lot of times you hear on the news that you know, this vaccine. I heard Tucker Carlson, who's a jackass and a liar, say that this vaccine is mandatory. No, it's not. That's not true. No one's forcing you to take anything. They're trying to encourage you to take it because they believe that is how we're going to get over this pandemic, is by having as many people as we can get vaccinated. But like I said, the right is discouraging you from getting the vaccine because the evil dummy is no longer in the White House. If he was, then they would tell you, go ahead and get the vaccine. The evil dummy has fixed everything. But since Biden is the one in the White House, they're saying no, because they want to make it seem like the pandemic is still lingering on, and that's Biden's fault. That's the whole purpose of that. If the evil dummy was in the White House, Fox News and all the personalities on there would be telling you, get this vaccine. It's foolproof and safe. But since their guy is not president anymore, they're telling you, they're encouraging you not to get the vaccine, and it is just like a terrible thing that you should be worried about. I digress. I brought up India for a reason, and this is why. Because India's racked with COVID. They don't have any vaccine. So the people here in the U.S. who don't want the vaccine, you should ban them from getting the vaccine and send the vaccine over to countries where they want the vaccine, like India. Their people are dying and they want the vaccine. They don't have it. Okay? So we should send some vaccine over to countries where they actually want it. If you don't want the vaccine, you don't have to take it. Okay? But we shouldn't just let the vaccine, because the vaccine has to be kept cold. It has to be refrigerated, or else it goes bad. And we can't be waiting and giving away prizes and millions of dollars to people to try to encourage them to get the vaccine. If they don't want the vaccine, just, let them not take the vaccine. Like I said, I have not even been vaccinated myself for different reasons. To me, it's not political. It's about science, and I think the vaccine is good. I just don't feel that I need it personally, because I'm not a sickly person. My immune system has not been compromised by any other illnesses. I'm not an elderly person just yet. So there's a lot of other people who need the vaccine. If you're an elderly person or your immune system has been compromised, you should get vaccinated and stop listening to fools on TV and radio to encourage you not to get it. Okay? If your immune system has been compromised by some other illness, or you're at the age that you're considered elderly and it's easy for you to break a hip, then get vaccinated. Okay? But I've gotten this idea from a show called The Conversation on TYT, The Young Turks. Okay. Cenk Uygur, or Cenk Uygur, however you pronounce the man's name. He was saying, I think you should ban all these guys on the right who don't want to get the vaccine. If you ban them, then they'll want to get it. If you say, okay, you don't want the vaccine, we're not going to give you the vaccine. In fact, we're banning you from getting the vaccine. They'll want it then. They'll be like, oh, it's our right as Americans to get this vaccine. They'll take it then. But you should send some of these vaccines over to people who want it in other countries. Okay? I mean, like I said, India, they're racked with COVID. They'd love to have the vaccines. People here in America, they don't want the vaccine. Now, moving on. Let's talk about other things. Listen, I talk about politics a lot. I never figured when I started this podcast, that I'd be talking about politics so much, but politics is what is front and center. It is dominating the headlines nowadays in our society. Or maybe it's because I've gotten a little older, that just hearing people talk about dumb shit just doesn't do it for me. I like to hear people talk about what's going on in the world. And so I'm talking about what's going on in the world. Okay? I still listening to Angela Yee sometimes, clips of it. I listen to clips of the Howard Stern show, where, celebrities get asked about different things, like who's banging who and what guy stabbed this girl, and people who knew Tupac and what they have to say about him and different stuff like that. It's a little interesting, but I don't talk about this stuff. And somebody once asked me, I just was Tupac was a wonderful guy, a great artist. I never knew the guy personally, but I'm not going to sit here talking about hip hop and celebrities all day on my podcast. Okay? If you want to hear that, you should be listening to what's the guy? Angela Yee and what's the guy's name? Oh, Charlemagne the God. You should be listening to that, not me. Plus that I really don't even want people who are teenagers listening to this podcast, because, you know what I'm saying, you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to be like, wow, he's talking about politics and everything, you know, going on in the news. This is for people who pay attention to what's going on in the world. That's who this podcast is for. It's not for people who just want to hear about entertainment and chit chat about dumb shit. Okay, that's not how I get down. Making jokes about jerking off and stuff like that. To me, yeah, that's cute and sometimes funny, but I'm mainly going to be speaking about what is going on in our lives. Somebody once asked me, how come you never interview anybody on your podcast? First off, my podcast is small time. Okay, I'm not a big star. You know, I'm not a big radio talk show host who also has a podcast. I just do the podcast. That's it. I'm hoping that one of these days I'm going to build this podcast into something. But right now, no one knows who I am. Okay. And I'm not just interviewing people in the neighborhood that no one knows who they are, or no one cares. I don't care if someone was a police chief. You know what I'm saying? They was in a gang. They was in prison. No one cares. Okay. I'm not interviewing just anybody. Okay, when I was had my broadcasting partner, what I call him, T Crow, he's another guy who has his own podcast, but he's not a famous guy. This is a guy that I grew up with who just happened to have his own podcast, so I thought we'd do a podcast together. I wasn't interviewing the guy. I was just, you know, getting his opinions on things that are going on in the world. So when someone asks me, why don't you interview anybody? Because I'm not interviewing anyone famous, so no one cares. If you're interviewing someone who is your cousin, is just even if this person is got a very interesting story to tell and is a very knowledgeable person, if they're not famous, no one cares. I hate to be the one to tell you that. Those of you who think, you know, you should be interviewing the ex-police chief. No one cares. If I have to tell you what that person's name is and everything they've done, no one cares. Okay, that's why I'm not interviewing anyone. Someone asked me, you know, why don't you interview people on your podcast? Because the next time you hear me interview someone will be the first time, and it will be probably, if I get lucky and convince somebody halfway famous to come on this podcast, it'll probably be someone who's a local comedian or something like that. You know, but even that is a long shot, to be honest with you. Okay, this is a podcast that I'm doing. I'm not famous. You know what I'm saying? And unless the person I'm interviewing is famous, no one cares. So that's why I'm not interviewing anyone. Okay, I'm entertaining you myself. Pretty soon I'm going to start doing video and putting it out there. Right now, the only video I've done with this podcast is when T Crow was here, and he was like said that we should go on Facebook Live. Other than that, you know what I'm saying, I've just put the audio out there from the podcast, and you can get it on iHeartRadio app or Spotify. Some of you who are listening, I've sent you the link in Facebook Messenger, and it takes you to Spreaker. Spreaker's the company that I do the podcast with, but it takes you to Spreaker, and then you can listen to it there. But you don't have to go that route. If you got the iHeartRadio app, you can listen to this podcast on iHeartRadio, and it'll tell you whenever I put a new podcast out. It'll send you a notification on your phone. Your favorite podcast has a new show out. Spotify is somewhere else you can listen to it. So Just look for Probably Offensive. I don't have to send you the link every week if you want to listen to it, if you enjoy it at all. But